Now, unknown to many, and this is since independence, all the way to the year 1999, the Kenya Defence Forces discouraged female soldiers from getting married, believe it or not, or even giving birth, due to the inconvenience, of course, of juggling between family and military duties. Lieutenant Colonel Martha Waithaka served as the Women Corp Commander until reforms were initiated that saw the easing of such restrictions. On the eve of the International Women's Day 2023 celebrations, we look at the immense contribution and sacrifice of women in defense forces. Here's Martha Waithaka's story with Nissie Imano on Military Tales.
Lieutenant Colonel Martha Waithaka joined the military in the late 1970s thanks to her nursing profession.
Because I liked nursing right from the time I was a young girl. One day my uncle brought me a letter, and when I opened that letter, I saw that I'd been called for an interview at Kenyatta School of Nursing. I went for that interview and I was successful. So in 1971, I joined nursing.
The interest came when she was working at Mathare Mental Hospital in 1977.
While at Mathare, I worked with some 2 nurses from the military. And they are the ones actually who told me, "Mom, why can't you come and join the military?" I said no, because we were supposed to be the pioneers as nursing officers. Then eventually I said, let me give it a try.
Martha worked for a decade, rising up the ranks to becoming the highest ranking woman commander then.
When the promotion came, I remember I was just inside here in my house, and when the result came of the #1 board, one of the officers called me and he told me, "Ma'am, congratulations." I asked him, "For what?" "You've been promoted and appointed CEO Women Service Corps."
In October of 1971, the Kenya Army recruited women for the first time.
Now, Women Service Corps actually was set up as a unit of the Army, because as at that time, it's only the Kenya Army that recruited women.
But agitation continued for women to be recruited to join other units of the military.
The military actually is a kind of, they are seen like, a fighting kind of component. And therefore, they looked at it and so now women may not be able to take up the roles that men would take, if there is anything, combat and all this.
Were the military duties so uniquely masculine?
Some roles actually came up for the girls, like clerical, being, stores, drivers, signorers, communicators. And this is where now the women now started having, specific roles that they could play.
How different was the training for the Women's Service Corps?
Now, the training actually was basically the same. Yeah, it's only that, upon recruitment, we used to have the women trained within the Women's Service Corps.
The Kenya Air Force was tasked with housing the Women's Corps.
Is where they can have a camp, a women camp within a base for security reasons. Being women, at least, they needed a lot of care and all this. And that's how the Women's Service Corps started.
But the wars of women in the military were far from over, as terms and conditions of service were still not conducive.
Did not allow them to become pregnant or even to get married. But in the event that one wanted at least to go and get married or start a family, they would be discharged from the service.
Again, there was a public uproar in the fight for equality in the military.
Police had already been around at least to get married and even to have children. And I remember with the police, in the event that a girl, perhaps a policewoman, fails to get married, at least they were allowed to have one child. So the question was now, why them, why not these ones,
Military as an employer was expected to employ all regardless of gender.
the women, maendeleo wanawake in agitation, they started actually, trying at least to see whether those terms could be changed. But it took a long time for them to be changed. And therefore, any girl who would become pregnant, they just, upon being discovered, should just be let to go home.
Eventually, in November of 1999, President Moi allowed for equal rights to be granted to men and women.
It was a very joyous moment, more so for the women, me inclusive. The world was opened for the girls, because today there's a lot of progression, because when I was there, I was the highest, the senior most, but today we have Major General.
This was the climax of the Women's Service Corps.
They all went to celebrate in whatever ways, they knew how.
Col Martha Waithaka was the last commanding officer of the Women's Service Corps until 1999, when
Of course, tomorrow the world celebrates the International Women's Day